If you have fallen out of love, if your spouse has said, I love you, but I'm not in love with you, if you feel like you're mostly just roommates, if you feel like the friendship has been lost in the marriage, if you're feeling emotionally disconnected in your marriage, do not ignore it and just keep rolling on, because although the number one cited reason for divorce is irreconcilable differences, what it really is emotional disconnection and the belief that we can never get this back again, which is not true. So in this video, I want to give you 3 signs of emotional disconnection. I want to give you 3 causes for emotional disconnection, and then I want to give you just one solution that will have you feeling emotionally connected again in your marriage. That's today on RelationShots. Hey, welcome to RelationShots. If you have not already downloaded the free guide to intimacy, you will see a link in the description area below. This document will help you evaluate 4 areas of intimacy in your marriage: physical, spiritual, emotional, and recreational, and also give you some practical ideas on how you can reconnect in those areas. So if you're feeling emotionally disconnected in your marriage, first you need to know you are not alone. This is not unique to you. I think most marriages and most couples get there at times, and some stay there at times because we've missed what got us there and we're not doing the things to get us out of there. But I also need you to know you are not doomed to stay there. I don't care how long it's been or how far you feel like you've gotten. If you're willing to do some practical things and understand how you got there, I promise you, you can get out of there and feel emotionally connected to your spouse once again. And I know probably at some point in your relationship, you felt connected to them, which is why you said, you know what, I think I might want to marry them. And so if you were able to do it once, you can get back there and do it again. What I want to give you is 3 signs that may be indicators you're there, 3 causes, and then I'm going to give you a solution to help you reconnect and feel emotionally connected in your marriage once again. So let's start with 3 signs. Number 1 sign that you may be disconnected is pretty obvious, but you're just feeling alone. Now here's the irony of marriage, right? When people are single, they often feel lonely and, oh man, I wish I had a spouse. They see all these happy couples on Instagram or Facebook and they go, man, I wish that was me. It's so lonely being by myself. What they don't realize is there's no more lonely place than to be married and in a house with somebody who still makes you feel like you're alone. Just like some people, singles, would say, oh, I'm so sexually frustrated, I wish I have a spouse where I could fill that need. But guess what? There's nothing more sexually frustrating than being next to somebody in bed who is your spouse, who you want to be with sexually, who is not interested in it. That's a much more frustrating and lonely place to be than not having anybody in the house. So oftentimes we could be in a relationship, we can be in the presence of somebody, but still feel ultimately alone because there is no connection between us anymore. This is when people start saying, well, I feel more like a roommate than a soulmate, or I feel like all we are is roommates. And all you're basically saying is we have not taken the time to understand why we're disconnected, and we're not prioritizing the things that will make us feel reconnected again. So if you are feeling alone in your marriage, obviously that's probably a clear sign that there is some emotional disconnection. Sign number 2 is frequent arguments. Now, when you find yourself in your marriage where you have more of a competitive or combative stance than a cooperative stance, where it feels like there's a lot more me versus you than there is we and usness in the relationship, that's a sure sign of disconnection. That's not a sign usually that you have more issues. It's a sign that our disconnection is making the issues more prominent in our relationship. I promise you, you don't probably have anything new or more than you had when you felt connected. The problem is when we feel connected, guess what I'm willing to do? I'm willing to overlook offenses. When I feel connected to you, I generally will believe the best. When there is a gap in information, I generally will give you the benefit of the doubt. But when we start feeling disconnected, guess what? I'm going to believe the worst about you. I'm not going to give you the benefit of the doubt. When there's a gap in information, I'm going to assume you're being dishonest or you're lying, and on down the road. So oftentimes when we're having more and more arguments, it's not because we got more issues in the relationship. It's an indicator that I'm not feeling connected to you, which means every little thing you do is more annoying to me. I'm not as gracious or loving or forgiving towards you because I don't feel connected to you. So the more arguments we have may not actually be an indicator that we have more things to argue about, but actually is an indicator that, you know what, I'm not feeling very emotionally connected to you. And because of that, all of the things that used to not be an issue is now becoming an issue, and they're just piling on top of each other. So that's another sign. And a third sign is not feeling heard or understood. Now, couples make so many mistakes in communication, and oftentimes they're dismissive of one another, they minimize one another, they invalidate one another. A lot of times not knowing they're doing that, but over time, if you feel dismissed or what you've brought has been minimized, or you try to bring something and they invalidate it, over time, that's going to hurt the emotional connection in a relationship. You're going to get to a place where you go, man, they just don't get me, or they don't hear me, or they don't value my opinions or my thoughts. And the problem is we're not really emotionally connected. So when you bring something to me, my tendency is to respond, deflect, to blame, to respond back, to counterattack, whatever it might be, because I'm not feeling very connected to you. And so what it looks like in the relationship is that, golly, you just don't hear me, you don't get me, you don't know who I am. No, I probably know all that stuff, but since I'm not feeling connected to you when you try to bring an issue to me, I'm going to deflect, I'm going to blame, I'm going to attack back again, and your conclusion is, they just don't get me. No, I get you. I'm just not feeling emotionally connected to you, which is making it so I'm not really interested in fully hearing you or trying to understand your perspective, because I just don't feel connected to you. So those are 3 signs that are common in a lot of relationships that would be a sign that you are feeling emotionally disconnected. Now, that's great. I got a sign. You didn't need to tell me, Eric. I already knew we were emotionally disconnected. I just don't know how we got here. So let me give you 3 causes. And then don't forget, I still got a solution coming for you. So one cause of emotional disconnection in relationship is unresolved issues. Many couples do not have the tools or the ability to resolve the resolvable issues in marriage. Maybe that's anger issues, maybe that's insecurity, maybe that's arrogance, maybe that's defensiveness. But for whatever reason, when one tries to bring an issue, the other one responds in such a way that we never quite seem to be able to resolve the issue at hand. And if you can't resolve any issues, what's going to happen over time is resentment and bitterness are going to begin to build up. And if I'm resentful and bitter at you at the fact that we can't resolve some of our issues, I am not going to feel connected to you. And so if you're a couple where when one of you brings an issue to the other one responds by either blaming them back, by counterattacking, by trying to over-explain and justify why they did what they did, and we never get to a place of actually resolving stuff, that's going to continue to stack up in the relationship. And if it continues to stack up in the relationship, you're going to find yourself getting to a place where you go, you know what? I don't even know if I want to bring up the issue anymore because it's too painful to try to bring up an issue, not get it resolved, be disappointed again, be let down, and only have it stack up. So at some point, I'm going to quit bringing up the issues. And if I quit bringing up issues, you will wrongly assume that we're good in the relationship, when the reality is I'm just not bringing stuff up because it never gets resolved anyway, and I get my hopes up thinking we're going to resolve it, and then we never actually resolve it, which then leads to resentment and bitterness. And now, you know what? I feel completely disconnected from you, and I would rather avoid the pain of trying and having it not go well by just not even bringing it up. And so couples will get to a place where, because they can't resolve issues over time, that's just immediately going to cause disconnection, and they don't know how to reconnect because they think I need to first resolve all the issues, then I'll be able to reconnect, which is a little off, and I'm going to explain why in just a minute. So one of the reasons is unresolved issues. A second cause of disconnection emotionally in a relationship is what John Gottman calls turning away. And so he suggests that couples are making bids every day for connection, and when a spouse makes a bid, the other spouse is either going to turn towards them and respond to the bid, or they're going to ignore the bid and turn away from them. In emotion-focused therapy, Sue Johnson talks about this idea that one of our deepest needs is we want to know that in our moment of greatest needs, that when we reach out to our spouse, that they will turn towards us and meet us in our moment of greatest need. And when they don't, when they turn away, that erodes the safety, that erodes the security, that erodes the connection, and ultimately the intimacy and emotional connection we want in a relationship. And so every day, your spouse is making bids. Every day you are making bids to connect with your spouse. It could be something as simple as looking out the window and saying, "It's a beautiful day today." Do they respond and turn towards you? Do they ignore you and turn away from you? Or maybe you got something on your phone that you think is funny and you laugh, hoping that they'll ask you about it, and they don't respond at all. They turn away from you. So every day, you're making bids and your spouse is making a bid to connect with you. And how we respond to those, whether we turn towards them or we turn away from them, will determine the level of emotional connection in the relationship. Now, if you're sitting here and you're thinking to yourself, I'm pretty sure my spouse does not make any bids for connection in a relationship, I would implore you to look at why that is. It's likely because they did it for a period of time, and instead of you turning towards them, you turned away and they were met with rejection. And over time, it feels a lot better to not even make a bid than to continue to make bids only to have you turn away. And a third cause of emotional disconnection in your marriage is misplaced priorities. So when I say that, I want you to think kids, work, hobbies, friendships. Now, we all have legitimate things in our lives, like parenting, like a job, like hobbies and other stuff we want to do and need to do, like friendships and family and relationships we have to maintain. All of us have those things. But when the priorities get misplaced in our lives to where we're spending more of our resources and our energy and our time and our attention on the kids, on work, on family, on friendships, on hobbies than we are with our spouse, that's going to lead to emotional disconnection. When you're giving your best everywhere else and you're giving the rest to your spouse, that's going to cause emotional disconnection in a relationship. And so if we don't have a game plan of how we're going to make sure that we're not misplacing our priorities in all of our relationships and our duties and the expectations around us and our responsibilities, I promise you what is going to suffer the most is going to be your marriage. The other stuff's going to be screaming for your attention, and your spouse is going to be subtly requesting it, and you're going to overlook it, and you're going to overlook it, and one day you're going to wake up and they're going to look at you and they're going to go, "I've been telling you this forever." And you're going to say, "No, I don't think you have, and I thought things were good." And they're going to say, "No, I've been telling you this forever, but you've been prioritizing other things, which continues to tell me that I'm not of value, that I'm not important enough, that I'm not your priority." And the emotional disconnection is going to be there. And for some people, they will feel like the gap is too large to ever get it back. So here's what I want to do for you. I want to give you one solution that I promise you can help you and your spouse get reconnected again and get on the right track. Now remember, if it's taken you a long time to get here, you're not going to get out of here overnight. But the one solution that will resolve the emotional disconnection in your marriage is you need to establish a relationship rhythm. And I've got a workbook called Uncovering Your Relationship Rhythm that's in the notes below in the description area that you can download. But here's what I need you to understand. The two key components of a relationship rhythm is you need to understand that there are specific times for connection and there are specific times for correction. So when I say correction, I mean we have conversations in our marriage that involve problem solving, conflict resolving, bringing up issues and concerns, dealing with logistics, whether it's around finances or the kids or schedules or vacations or all the stuff that we need to do. And then we have conversations that are solely for connection. But what happens in most marriages is the corrective, the logistical, the business conversations overtake the entire marriage, and then we wonder why we're disconnected because 90% of our conversations are around logistics, or around parenting, or around problem solving, or around finances, or around conflict resolving, and none of those make us feel emotionally connected to each other, and most of those have the ability to trigger us and make us feel disconnected with one another. And then we're not intentional to make sure that we have time for connecting conversations. So as you go through the relationship rhythm workbook located below, here's what I need you to understand. You need specific times that you have safeguarded, that you have put boundaries around, that you have made sure you're protecting solely for connection in your relationship. Because if you don't, those are not organically going to happen in any marriage. Now, our dating process made us believe that all the connection just organically happens. But then marriage has some relational dynamics, dating doesn't, and we quickly realize, you know what, these things aren't happening unless we are intentional about making sure those things happen. So what you need to do is you need to establish a rhythm for your relationship daily and weekly that makes sure that we are having multiple times throughout the week where we are getting together solely to connect, whether it's sharing our high and low for the day, whether it's doing something that we both enjoy, whether it's having fun together, whether it's playing a game, whether it's taking a walk, you name it, whatever the things are that make you and your spouse feel connected. And the workbook will walk you through those things so there's real clarity on it and will help you come up with a rhythm for your relationship. But the solution to emotional disconnection in any marriage is to create a rhythm that ensures that we are having moments, key moments of connection, that we are prioritizing our emotional connection, our friendship, the part of the relationship that we enjoy and that we got together and that we decided to get married because we enjoyed it, not at the expense of all the other stuff that has taken over the relationship. So if problem solving, conflict resolving, logistical conversations, parenting issues are the primary conversations you're having in your relationship, I guarantee you, you will stay emotionally disconnected. You've got to prioritize the other conversations that will help offset that and make you feel emotionally connected again. So what I need you to do is download the Uncovering Your Relationship Rhythm document that is in the description area below. I need you to work through it with your spouse, and guess what? I need you to come back and comment and say, we created a rhythm, and let me know how that rhythm is going and how that rhythm is helping you guys reconnect in your relationship. So if you need some more videos on what that looks like, I'm going to tag another video called The Business of Marriage at the end of this that'll help you walk through some of the same concepts I just talked about in more depth and more clarity, as well as a video on validation that will help you understand, how do I validate my spouse so that they feel more connected to me? So I need you to download that. I need you to drop a comment. I need you to check out another video, and then I need you to come back and let me know how you have established a relationship rhythm in your marriage. And until next time, I'll see you right back here on RelationShots.